Hello, this is Robin Norgren over here at The Gifted Learner, and today's topic is if your classroom is out of control, whose fault is it? All right, here we are. So, as many of you may know, I took over a kindergarten classroom in a charter school right after the fall break. So it was an unexpected change. The teacher had left, and so basically, families went on their fall break. She notified, it was only a 1 week break. She had notified the school sometime with that time frame, in that time frame. The job was posted on Wednesday. I was hired on a Thursday. I talked with the team lead on the Friday, and then I started the following Tuesday. So, I had been a kindergarten teacher before in a charter school setting, but as a Montessori teacher, which was, again, really lent itself to a lot of growth on my part as a teacher, because I was in a Montessori setting, but I also had to align with Common Core standards. So while I was doing everything that you would normally do in a Montessori classroom, like, a lot of the cooking and, well, I had a traditional Montessori classroom and we did a lot of community building and things like that. But I also um, had to run a club for the charter school because that was just the standard for every teacher. You had to run a club. I also had to go to all of those professional development workshops. I also had to, anytime there was a mandatory parent teacher, um, I guess, after school involvement, I had to be there. So I was literally there all the time. Because of course they would plan the Montessori things on one day and they would plan this charter school things on another day. So I was just always there. And so, anyway, so I went into this situation and, being very mindful because I am also a parent and I have had the situation happen to me where as a parent, where a teacher leaves abruptly and then you are basically like, you don't get information, obviously, about why that happened. And, do you trust the next teacher? And is this next teacher going to leave? And what's going on at the school and all that, especially at the kindergarten level, especially with parents? This is their first child going through this. And, we live in an age where children cannot be traumatized in any way, shape, or form, which, again, don't get me wrong. I don't think that we should be traumatizing children, but this is not necessarily the worst trauma that a child can have. Let's be honest here, okay? And so, anyway, I'm going in with that compassion of, they don't understand why this just happened and where is their teacher and why can't they talk to the teacher and all this kind of stuff. They also don't realize that I have no access to whatever it is that teacher said to you, right? I have no access, parents. Nobody's showing me anything. So it's a combination of that and then not necessarily the teacher maybe didn't document things as much as you thought she did. So I literally am walking in, I know nothing about your kids, all right? Which I like it that way, okay? So here we are, 10 weeks of a semester. If you've ever worked in one of the larger charter schools, you know it is very data driven. It is very much, you are on worksheets, you are on task, you are in desks as a kindergartner, you are working all day long. Every moment is a moment of learning. It is very rigorous from kindergarten. Again, something most parents I don't think really understand, right? And so because I'm a huge component, and I think this is any teacher, whether it be gen ed or whether there be Montessori, those first 6 weeks are everything for relationship building. And what was so interesting is when I was hired, they were like, well, I know that the first weeks are, we need to get these kids on, at the place they need to be by this time, of the year, as far as this is where the curriculum is, you need to make sure they're there. I say, yeah, I hear you, but at the same time, you can't skip the part about relationship, right? That has to happen. And so I was doing lots of things where I know, maybe necessarily you have a 50-minute block for math, but we probably should do a little getting to know you. That's going to take maybe an extra 5 minutes. And because you've hired me and because I'm an experienced teacher, please know they're not going to lose any learning time, because the fact of the matter is, if they don't trust me, they're not learning from me anyway, right? And so here we are. Here's the context of how it was when I walked in there. 22 kids, some of them with some behavior issues. None of them could sit on a mat. Now I'm talking, we are into, let's see, I came in week 10. They could not sit on a mat together. We could not do group time. So I would have to do group time at the desks. I mean, it was like, oh, okay, this is where we're at. We could not do a calendar time. They just were so, they did not know how to sit still. And so, that's what you're working with, right? And so you have to go back to the basics. There's no getting around it, okay? And I'll go into that a little bit more in depth of how we finally got there and how I build classroom relationships, because I feel like I've really got that part down, tried and true, okay? When you have it down very successfully, what ends up happening is then it's a little bit of you against them because they love each other so much, thanks to your great community building skills. And so here we are. We're at 10 weeks. I mean, I was exhausted at that break, because it's, again, it's a lot of like, you have to control yourself. You have to keep your inner peace in the midst of they don't understand where they need to get, right? And of course, you're thinking, oh my gosh, now we're at the halfway point, right? And so, that first week off, because we had 2 weeks of break, I was sick. I was just stressed out. I was very much like, wow, I really took the helm of something that was really very tricky, right? But by the end of that last week, so we had not been sitting at a meeting time. We hadn't been doing it. That last week, I said to them, today's the day we are sitting and having a meeting, and you will show respect to each other on the mat. And do you know that they went over there and they sat down, and it was like perfection. Now, why me saying that at the end of 10 weeks, and it couldn't happen, because I did try it a couple days, and it couldn't happen at the beginning of 10 weeks? Again, it goes back to, that's on me. That's on me. They're showing me they cannot do this. So why am I going to beat my head against the wall? I'm not going to be yelling. I'm not going to be frustrated. They simply do not know how to do it. And you cannot fight that. You can't fight it. But you do intrinsically know there's a turn where you can now press on this relationship that you've now built between the two of them. I'm calling them an entity, because they very much are. Between this group of children and you, that's like, okay, we've built a camaraderie now. So when I ask you to do something, the expectation is you're going to do it. And so, even though I was sick, even though I felt very stressed out, because there's a reality of like, okay, I did this, I gave this time, I'm really going to have to lean into the academics, and we have what we call raise values, and I was doing it, but not really, because really I wanted to build safety and security and trust, right? Trust is a big thing. Don't think you can do any of this without them trusting you. But I also knew I had a job to do, and I needed to really lean into the job, but I did know I could not do it without doing this. But it always is a little scary to go, okay, did I invest my time in the right way? So this is part one of this series of, if you've got a behavior in a class, big behaviors in the classroom, whose fault is it? I will continue on with this. So stay tuned.